They knew their killers, but only in their memories. Some cases don't begin at the crime scene. Years later, they begin in the mind of a child. This is one of those cases. It was documented, it was investigated, and it remained unresolved. Because no one could explain how a child knows the details of a murder they should never remember. In the early 1960s, in rural Thailand, a baby was born to an ordinary family. There was nothing extraordinary about his birth, except for one thing. On the back of his head, he had a small, round birthmark, hairless, dark in color, perfectly distinct. At first, it was dismissed as a coincidence. Many children are born with scars. Most of them mean nothing. But this would mean everything. As the child grew, his behavior began to change. Before he learned to read, before he understood what death was, he began to talk about a life that didn't exist. He said he was a teacher, not a child, not a student, a teacher. He described a school, a classroom, a row in the front rows. And then he described how he died. The child said he was shot, not by accident, not in war, but intentionally. He said the bullet hit the back of his head, right where his birthmark was. At first, his family didn't panic. Children fantasize. They repeat stories they've heard. But this was different. The child didn't just describe dying. He described what happened afterward. He said he remembered falling. He said he remembered the sound of the gun. And he said he remembered the man who pulled the trigger. The name came later. At first, it was just a face in his memory, a man he claimed to recognize instantly. When asked how he knew him, the child calmly replied, "He killed me." What disturbed the adults most wasn't the accusation. It was the sensitivity. The child recounted the event as if he had witnessed it from within his own body. He knew the location. He knew the angle. He knew the exact moment the bullet struck. And none of this had been told to him. Years before the child was born, a local schoolteacher had been murdered. The event was real. The investigation was short. The perpetrator was never found. The teacher had been shot from behind. The bullet had entered the back of his head. When investigators later examined the medical records, they noticed something chilling. The location of the fatal wound matched the location of the child's birthmark. Not approximately, not symbolically, absolutely. The child continued speaking. He said he remembered being angry, confused, aware that something had been taken from him. He claimed to know the man responsible for his death, not because he had seen him recently, but because this memory never faded. When shown photographs of people in the area, the child didn't hesitate. He pointed to a man, and he reacted with fear. This was no longer a family matter. Investigators were contacted. Psychologists observed the child. The event was documented in detail. Not as a folktale, not as a belief, as data. Medical experts examined the birthmark. They noted its unusual structure, its shape, its precise alignment. They compared it to forensic reports from the original crime. The match was undeniable. Yet no one could explain it. The child had no access to the case records. The crime was committed before his birth. The details were not public. And yet, he remembered. As the child grew, everything changed. The memories began to fade. The teacher, the classroom, the moment of death, everything slowly disappeared. All that remained was a trace, still visible, still unchanged. A physical reminder of a memory that no longer speaks. At the end of the day, the case was archived. No accusations were made. No verdicts were reached. Science recorded everything it could, and it stopped where explanations failed. So what was it? A coincidence? A psychological anomaly? Or something else entirely? A memory carried across lives without permission. Cases like this challenge everything we think we know about identity, about memory, and about death. They don't ask us to believe. They ask us to explain. In the next episode of Past Life Files, we examine another documented case. Another child, another violent death, and another memory that refused to stay buried. If you're ready, we'll open the next file together. This case was documented in academic research by psychiatrist Ian Stevenson.